Hi, kids and parents. This is Miss Lean, and I'm going to go over the backpack equipment list with you very briefly. The reason that you're watching this video is because you had a child or you had a family member in the last few years go on survival. So most of the things are the same. Every single year, we look at this list and we update it based on feedback that we hear or things that we've seen. So it's not exactly like it may have been in the past. So I'm going to go over the important things so that the seventh graders hear it, and also the new things so that way if you're a parent listening, you also hear the changes that are happening so you don't send your current seventh grader with the same items that you sent maybe your older child. The first important thing to know is that everything needs to be labeled with your name and group number or group letter, which you might not know yet, especially clothing. We want all the children to go home with every item that they brought, but if it's not labeled, then we don't know who to give it to unless someone steps up and says, oh, that's mine. So it's very important. Even clothing, just label it on the tag or the collar, and we will do our best to return it to your child if he or she loses something. Also, the big pack must obviously fit properly. So if you have one that you sent your older child with, you just want to make sure that it fits. You wouldn't want to send your current seventh grade child with a backpack that didn't fit just out of convenience. So it should have a padded waist, shoulder straps. It has to have a sternum strap that clips in the front. If it's a 70s or a military backpack, something that's very old, then that might not be the best one. So if it's a hand-me-down, certainly get that one checked out. And we do have a pack check or a gear check where we check several of our gear items before we leave in May. So make sure that this is available for us to check. For the sleeping bag, you want to make sure that it is in a carry bag or a stuff sack, and we want it to be rated between 20 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about the temperature that it might dip down to. We usually like to have it a couple degrees lower than the actual temperature just in case. And all of the items in this section here, these two items, are designed to keep the sleeping bag dry and off the ground. And for the drawstring bag that we ask you to bring, it's just a regular trash can sized plastic bag, and that's in case there's a little wet spot in the sleeping bag. We can cover that spot up with the trash bag, because if you're wet, you get cold, and if you're cold, the week is just miserable, and it's already a tough week when you're dry, and certainly being wet makes it even worse. One more thing I just want to point out in this sleeping bag section is no flannel sleeping bags. And the reason that I say no flannel sleeping bags is because they're very bulky, and if the sleeping bag does get wet, flannel doesn't dry very quickly, or if it dries at all, because we're constantly moving. So the bag has to be packed away so it doesn't get the opportunity to air out like maybe you would if you were home. And they have a tendency, if they're packed on the outside, because they're very bulky, to get caught on branches and possibly rip. So that would just be a miserable experience. There are just a few things that I want to bring up in the clothing category. We recommend 3 changes of clothes, and the reason that we say that is because you want to have enough that you're not carrying too much, but you also want to have the opportunity to change your clothes, because since you're not showering, it just gives you a little bit of a fresher feeling than being in the same clothes, because then you get really stinky and dirty. Certainly you can bring more, but just make sure that you understand that you have to carry everything that you bring. We do have some kids who stay in the same clothes almost the entire week, and we do not recommend that. Please change your clothes. But there are some do's and don'ts about the clothes that you bring. Boys specifically, we want to make sure that your pants are above the knee, which means no basketball shorts, especially no jeans. Jeans are very uncomfortable to hike in, and basketball shorts as well. You want to make sure that it's above the knee so your knee can bend freely and it doesn't get caught on things. Again, in the comfort section, we just want girls to not have shorts that are too short. You, again, want your legs to be covered because you're going to get bug bites, and the more skin that you have exposed, the more bugs could possibly bite you. And don't bring anything that's your favorite. It's probably going to get dirty. And I know that I have clothes that I come back with and they just have permanent dirt stains, even if I wash them over and over. So don't bring anything that you really, really love. Don't bring your favorite clothes. Tank tops, spaghetti straps, those sort of things, those are not comfortable, especially since you're going to have a big backpack on. You don't want the backpack straps to be digging into your skin, because if you get a sunburn, your straps are going to be rubbing on that sunburn, and that is just a terrible feeling. So all shirts that you bring have to have short sleeves. I'm not going to say much about the sock section over here because you're going to watch a whole video about specific socks, but just pay attention to the quantity here. So a lot of the students, after they've gone on survival, they say that they wish they had brought a pair for every day. Again, it just gives you that clean, fresh feeling, but certainly the minimum that we suggest is 4, because that's your mode of transportation. So you're using them all day. You're on your feet from sun up to sundown. And so you just want to put yourself in the best position possible. In terms of the bathing suit over here, we just want people to not have any oops moments. So make sure that if you have a bathing suit, it fits you. And also, this towel certainly goes hand in hand with the bathing suit. And so that's a small towel. It's just used to dry your body. It's not a bath sheet. Remember, you bring it, you have to carry it. We're going to talk about this whistle with the 7th graders when we meet with them at some point. It's for safety, so you just want to make sure that you have a whistle and it's on a string that, is secure enough to keep it on your neck the whole week, all week long. Let's go up to the food section. In the food section, you'll watch a whole video about food. But just for clarification purposes, the food that's mentioned here all goes in the big backpack. It does not go in the base camp box or the small backpack. All of this food goes in the big backpack. We ask you to bring 1 6 or 8 ounce cup, and we just say 6 or 8 ounce because sometimes you can't find a 6 ounce, but you don't get any more food if you bring an 8 ounce. We want it to be plastic, hard plastic, no metal. I'll explain why in a second, with a handle. So the hard plastic, no metal requirement is because sometimes students will bring metal and we use boiling hot water, and so it could burn your hands. You want to make sure that you don't get burnt, so we recommend hard plastic. For the same reason, we want it to have a handle because even hard plastic holding boiling water can get very hot, and so you want to make sure that it has a handle. We have had students who ignored this and they bring Cool Whip containers and they get cracked and then they're burning their hands because the plastic is so thin. So please follow this. It's really for your safety to make sure that you can eat, because if you don't have what we ask for, then you're going to have a difficult time with the food that we give you. Down in the hygiene section, the bathroom kit is probably one of the most important things. You want to make sure that you have all of these things, and certainly put enough there. A whole roll of toilet paper kind of squashed into a bag, because that's really what you're going to be using all week. And wet wipes, the wipes, not the liquid. Ziploc bags for the trash, because all of our trash, we don't just leave it next to a tree, so we have to take it with us and dispose of it when we get to a trash bag, which we don't carry with us. So if you put your bathroom trash in a Ziploc bag, then when we get to our destination, it can be thrown away properly. Just a note about the deodorant, you want to make sure that it's unscented. Make sure everything that you bring is unscented, because scents will attract bugs. If you smell like a flower, they'll think you're a flower and they'll attack you. And there's plenty of bugs. You don't need more bugs. With regard to the small first aid kit, you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success if you get a cut or any sort of, injury. So moleskin and nice quality Band-Aids, not, cheap ones that might, kind of fall off when you start sweating. Since you've had a family member go on survival, you probably know that in the best case scenario, this space blanket does not get used, but in the event that the sleeping bag is so wet that it's unsleepable, if that's even a word, then they'll end up sleeping in the space blanket. We have students who tell us that they slept better in the space blanket than they did in their wet sleeping bags, so certainly a lot of students will opt for that given the opportunity. Please make sure that it is a bag style, and it should say that right on the packaging. And if you get it from us, that's the one that we sell. When it comes to the flashlight, a lot of students like to bring headlamps. Certainly, if you have a headlamp, make sure that you have backup batteries or a backup flashlight, because once the sun goes down, that's the only light that we have. It might look a little daunting for the mechanical pencils to be by themselves in a gallon size Ziploc bag, but we will put our journals in this Ziploc bag. And we say mechanical pencils because there's no pencil sharpener out in the middle of the woods. So if your pencil breaks, then there's nothing for you to write with. So mechanical pencils will always have that sharp tip. For the Ziploc bags over here, the gallon size, these are for storing, random things that we might ask you to hold on to. So send them empty, and then your child will fill them up as we go through the week with, items that we ask them to take. And we say no slider bags because sometimes those sliders will pop off and then the bag doesn't close at all. So the snap ones are certainly the ones you want to get. And sometimes they're actually cheaper than the slider ones. The carabiners here, that's a new thing. We just added that this year because students were getting their water bottles that were attached outside their backpack. They were snapping off and the straps were breaking. So if it's attached on the outside of the backpack or anything is attached on the outside of the backpack, then you want to have it on a carabiner so it has the ability to move around and it's not restricted and possibly, might snap or something. In the past, we've had the students in tents, but the last few years, we've been going to temporary plastic shelters that are open on each side. So, a lot of students are bringing a bug net because they want to prevent themselves from getting attacked in the middle of the night. And one final reminder is that everything needs to be in the big backpack or securely attached to the outside unless stated otherwise, and it has to be labeled. The size that we suggest is 3,600 to 4,000 cubic inches. That's the recommended size. You want to make sure that not only all of this stuff fits in that backpack, but also there has to be some room for group gear. We bring things that we don't ask you to send your child with, like shovels and things like that for, other things for cooking and eating. And so we ask people to carry those with them. And so there has to be some sort of space for group gear because everybody will carry a little bit of everything for the group. One final reminder is say goodbye to all of your electronics. No cell phones, personal locator beacons, GPS, watches, handheld gaming systems, iPods, MP3 players, cameras, metal knives, all those things. Do not go on survival. If you are caught with them, you run the risk of getting sent home. So please don't jeopardize your week or your time with us for that purpose. You can bring a plastic knife in your with your food that you keep at base camp, but no metal knives at all. If you have any questions about any gear that you're not sure might be appropriate or not, you can send us a message, an email, or you can send your 7th grade child in with the item and we can check it.